Everybody, what's going on? So today in this video, we're going to talk about every single one of the Docks Lure Company baits, all the baits that I make. I got 3 multi-species baits and the rest are kind of mainly for bass. I've actually caught bluegill on 2 of these baits that are actually bass baits, which is kind of funny, but you know that happens sometimes. So before I get into this, I do have a Facebook page now. Now, I'm not really into the whole social media thing. YouTube is pretty much the only social media I have, really, but I'm going to be having a Facebook page now. It is The Top. First name is The Top, capital T on both words, and no space. And then the last name is a capital W and a capital K, Water King, with no space either in that. It's the only way I can set it up. So, the Top Water King has now got a Facebook page, and I will be showing you guys how you can buy some of these. I actually have a PayPal thing now where you can send me money through the PayPal, and I'll send you the baits. So, yeah. So, first we're going to go start off with the 3 multiple species baits. I love throwing baits that I can catch just about anything on, and these things have just they've caught pretty much everything that is around here besides a catfish. Who knows, maybe that'll happen at some point. But they've caught bluegill, crappie, and bass. They've caught multiple different species of bluegill as well, from green sunfish hybrids, straight up normal bluegill, pumpkin seeds. They've caught a couple different sunfish species, and first one is my personal favorite, just because of how small and little and easy for those bigger bluegill to eat. It is a 1.5 inch long swim bait. It is tiny, tiny little dude, but I tell you what, it slams the bluegill and crappie. The very first day I actually had this, I caught 3 bluegill and 1 bass on it, just rigging it on a tiny little 1/32 ounce jig head with some 8-pound Berkeley trilene and just casting it out there real light and just swimming it back, and they definitely catch fish. Next, now this one here, I have not personally caught anything on it yet, but my dad has caught 1 fish on it. It was a big old bluegill. What he likes to do with this is he likes to cut the tail in half right through the middle and put it on a jig and use it underneath of a cork. And he's caught a big bluegill on this. I've lost a couple bluegill, and it's basically just a 2-inch version of the big flat runner that I also make. The other one, now this one here has caught bluegill, crappie, and bass. Actually, the exact same day, it caught 3 different species. And this is a 2-inch swim bait right here. Now this here is my dad's personal favorite color. It's basically just a white back with a white tail and a red belly section. And he loves that color. He smashed the bluegill, crappie, and bass on it. All in one day, he caught 3 different species with it. So now we're going to go ahead and get into the bass lures. So first we're going to get into the creature baits. And the creature baits consist of 2 bluegill baits, 1 craw bait, a frog bait, and just a all-around good imitation bait. It imitates pretty much everything. But first we're going to talk about the little 2-inch mudbug craw. Actually, I think it's 3-inch, right? I'm going to make sure before I get my measurements wrong. 2.5 inch. I knew I had it wrong. I don't know why, but I got it wrong. But 2.5 inch mudbug craw. This thing is an awesome, awesome finesse jig trailer. It's also good on just big football heads as well. I actually caught about a 2.5 pounder the other day. Sadly, it wasn't on camera, but I did catch about a 2.5 pounder on a jig with a craw on it. Next is the flat runner, which is the bigger version of the little tiny flat runner you guys can see here. This one here is the bigger version. This one here is just good for just about anything. I like rigging it on shaky heads, drop shots, shaky heads, weightless rig, just fluke it. Work it like a fluke, you know, just twitching it around real slow. Works awesome. It's also really good on a Texas rig, flipping and pitching up in the grass and trees. Has an awesome action. And it is the same way as the smaller bait. You can cut the tail, and it has a ton more action than it already does. Next is the Bullfrog. This here is a buzzing tail, or a boot tail buzzing frog. I love this frog because you can rig it two different ways. You can rig it upside down, which is where the flat part will be going across the water. This here will be a better, more of a finesse topwater bait. Sometimes you get out there on them lakes and they're highly pressured and they're used to seeing like Teckle sprinkler frogs and zoom horny toads and all those type of frogs. And then they see an upside down one that has just a very light kicking action, and it can catch some big fish. My cousin has already caught, I think he's caught about 2-pounders on it, and my dad has had some crazy blow-ups, and I had one blow-up right at the bank, scared the crap out of me. I wish I had my camera roll, and that would have been an awesome one. But that there is an awesome bait. Then we got the two big and little gill. This here's the little gill. It is a 3-inch bluegill. These baits are both awesome bed fishing baits. Another thing that a lot of people probably wouldn't try these on is a drop shot. If you take either way, it doesn't even matter. You can rig it like through this way or through that way, and they both different ways have great action, and they just have a great little bluegill profile. And if you can find where them bass are just smashing the bluegill up shallow, take a little 1 or 2-aught hook on that one there, cast it up there, and just reel it real slow, and then bass will come up and nail it because it looks like an injured bluegill swimming on its side. Then we got the bullgill. Now this one here is the 4-inch bigger version of the little gill. You can tell it's wider, longer, and just overall just bigger than the little gill. This one here can handle some of the bigger hooks. I've thrown it with 6-aught screw lock hooks. What I usually do with this one here is kind of a finesse topwater bait. What I like to do is I like to throw it up on the mats with a big hook and heavier line, say, I don't know, I usually use 10-pound unless I'm in some thick grass, and I'll probably use about 15-pound braid, maybe even go all the way up to my 50-pound frog rod. But take a big 6-aught hook, throw that thing out there, and just slowly reel it across them mats, and then bass will come up and destroy this thing. Another great way, believe it or not, to throw these bluegill are on a shaky head. And they kind of sit on the bottom just like this right here. And they actually do catch fish. I had about a 2-pounder on the smaller gill, throwing just a little 1/4-ounce jig head. And about a 2-pounder, and he sadly came off though. So next, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Swimbait and fluke style bait. This one here is a drop shot minnow. As the name ensues, it is an awesome drop shot bait, but not only is it good for drop shotting, it is also good for the Nico rig, and is also a great weightless bait. You just cast it out there and twitch it real slow. It has an awesome action. Another crazy thing that I've just realized a couple days ago was if you take it weightless, and you can also do it with a keel weighted hook. You can cast it out there and you swim it, and it actually, the tail, even though it's a flat tail, it has a crazy wide wobbling action, and the whole bait kind of twists. And it's a really, really natural looking action. It actually looks just like a little 4-inch minnow swimming through the water. I have good hopes for that. I'm actually really excited to go out and try this. Here pretty soon, I'm actually going to take a bunch of my homemade baits and just make a crap load of them for myself and my dad, and we're going to go out fishing with them here soon, hopefully. But next is the 4-inch Docks Lure Company Swimbait. Now this thing here has already caught fish in multiple different states. It's caught fish over in Ohio, and a buddy of mine that bought some over in Indiana also has caught fish on these. But these things have caught fish here in Illinois as well. You guys may have seen the video that my dad actually caught about a 2.5-pounder on this exact color, the white with a little bit of silver flake. I hope you guys can see the silver flake. There's just a faint amount of silver flake in it, and it gives it kind of a flash in the water. But yeah, this is the exact batch of baits that he actually caught that fish on. I see you, Cat. But now we're going to go ahead and get into the worms. We have 4 different style of worms. Now this worm here, I call it the wacky worm. Now, I used to call this the stick worm, but I got to thinking it's not the best on a Texas rig. It really isn't. So I call it the wacky worm. And why? Because it is a square worm. Now if you guys look, it is square. It's got flat sides on all 4 sides. And this thing, if you take a small, I'm talking a small hook, You know, a size 1, maybe even a 1/0 if you want a, you know, a bigger hook for some bigger fish, and you just hook it right in the middle like that right there, and you cast it out there just a little ways. I've actually caught fish in inches of water with this thing. I didn't get them on camera, sadly, but it's pretty cool because I just cast it out there. And what I normally would do with a wacky worm, this is what I've done. I've literally done this since I started fishing soft plastic baits. What I would do is I'd cast it out there, and just to where I couldn't see it, I would pull it back up to where I could, and then let it sink. And then when I couldn't see it, I'd move it back up. And I've caught a ton of fish using that type of technique with these little squared off worms like that. That is a great bait. Next is the Doc's Lure Company Finesse Worm. Now this one here has caught fish already. This thing is awesome on a shaky head, awesome on a wacky rig, and perfect on a drop shot as well. Some of you guys know that I used a finesse worm to catch one of my biggest fish ever. It was actually about a 4.5 to 5 pounder. It was actually probably was about 5 pound, but we didn't have a scale, so we don't know. But it was a big fish, and it was caught on a finesse worm, and it was caught in a pumpkin color. So I wanted to get a finesse worm mold, make one to where you guys can go out and catch some fish with this as well. This is a great mold, or a great bait, excuse me. A great bait, and I love the green pumpkin magic color with that bait. Next, we got the dragon worm. Now the dragon worm, the reason why I call it that is because it is an awesome, awesome bait to just slowly drag on the bottom. And why is you guys can see those light ridges right there. And you go and you cast it out, and that pointed tail right there kind of goes fat, and then it just cuts off real quick. If you cast that out there and you move it real slow, I'm talking painfully slow, you move it real slow, and that bait just kind of goes like this in the water. It almost like a little snake or a dragon tail just kind of slowly moves in the water, and the water movement on this thing is insane, and it looks super duper natural. It's a small bait. I actually don't even have an actual measurement on the bait yet. It is a 4.5 inch bait. Whether you're out there finesse fishing for smallmouth, or if you're out there flipping, I've actually caught, or not caught, but I hooked one, and believe it or not, it actually broke me off. I wonder if it wasn't a mudfish, but I actually hooked and broke off a fish, flipping this up into about 6 inches of water through some thick grass. And that is an awesome bait. Next, now these here are the biggest worms that I make. I make 2 8-inch worms. One of them is the paddle tail. Now this bait here is actually this is my original bait. This was the first bait I ever started making. It's a squared off worm, sort of like the wacky worm, only bigger, and it's got this paddle tail on it. Now my cousin, Big Bait Baker, and his dad just actually about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, just bought a couple packs of these because they had been slaying them on them. They bought some white and black, and they went out literally the same exact day, and I think they both caught 6 or 7 on them, and they still have them. They still are using them. And my favorite color for these bigger worms is either green pumpkin or black. Black with silver flake is an awesome bait, an awesome color for these bigger worms. Now this one here has a bit of a story behind it. So y'all may see that I've changed my profile picture, and y'all see if you go to my Facebook page, that profile picture of that about 4.5 pounder was caught on a slammer worm. This here is a Doc's Lure Company bait. Now this is probably one of my favorite baits that I make because it just catches fish. I've already caught 2 4-pounders in the 2 weeks that I've actually been making these baits. I've already caught 2 4-pounders. And my favorite color is green pumpkin or black with silver flake, just like with the other bigger worm. This thing has already caught 2 big ones, and it just keeps on catching them. I think I've caught probably around 6 or 7 fish on it, and some of them are even a little bit smaller. They're not all giants, but that's the appeal of bigger worms, is they will catch bigger fish. You know, those 2 4-pounders may have not hit, you know, a small Cinco or a jig. They probably were looking for a big meal moving real slow, and that's why I like throwing those bigger worms. So I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you guys check out my Facebook. I'll show you guys how I'll be posting pictures and stuff of some of my baits on there, so you guys can buy some of these baits. $5 a pack, and I'm doing a sale right now. If anybody's actually watching right now, I'm doing a sale, like I said in the other video, $5 or $5 per pack. If you buy 2 packs, you get the third pack for only $1. So thank you guys for watching. Bye.